So, the continuation of the Brain Sharpeners. So, at the end of chapter 5, Michael had gone off in the pepper pot, and Mr. Salt was very suspicious about what was going on with Class 8. So, chapter 6. As the pepper pot shot up into space, Michael expected to have trouble with weightlessness, but found he was able to walk about as though he was still on the ground. Perhaps we're just circling the world, he wondered, and decided he might as well try and find out. "Where are we?" he asked. "Aren't we out in space yet?" The translating machine set to work, and soon an answer came back. "We are 100,000 miles beyond your moon. We are on course towards our intermediate space station, where you will be able to meet one of our outer space commanders and most important brain sharpener." "Thank you," said Michael. "Where is the home of the Brain Sharpeners?" There was a pause while the translating machine did its work, and while the answering system considered whether the question was one which could be safely answered. "Our world is not far away," replied the machine at last. "We live on a planet in a nearby galaxy. It has a climate similar to yours, which is why we are interested in visiting you. We have discovered several other planets near us which we could develop, and we need to recruit more citizens for them. Life on your world has not developed as fast as ours, and of course our brains are much superior. So no doubt many of your people will be pleased to have their brains sharpened by us and start a new life in one of their colonies, especially when they find out that is what we have achieved with your Mr. Browser and his class." "Big heads," thought Michael. And then, just in case the brain sharpeners were reading his thoughts, "Thank you very much for that information," he added aloud. The flight continued for another hour. "We are preparing to land," the machine told Michael. Then followed the usual hissing sound, and the pepper pot gently sank down. The door opened. "You may step out," said the machine. Michael obeyed, and saw that the pepper pot had flown into a huge enclosed platform. Above him a transparent roof was closing in, having opened up to allow their entry. "Stand still," a voice ordered him. "You will be taken to the commander." Michael looked around for someone to take him, but the floor beneath him began to move, and he looked downward, fascinated, as his section of the floor was shunted and shuffled on its way to the door of one of the many rooms at the back of the platform. A door slid open, and Michael's piece of floor deposited him in the doorway. "Walk in," said a voice. Sitting behind a desk was a tall, human-like person with long arms and a large but handsome head. It looked at Michael with a gaze so sharp that it felt like looking into the sun. "Welcome," said the figure. "You wished to see a brain sharpener, and now you're looking at one. Is there anything more you wish to know?" "Yes, please," said Michael, avoiding that penetrating stare. "Why are you interfering with my world, and why particularly my class?" "I thought the machine had told you that," remarked the brain sharpener. "I'd like to confirm it," said Michael. "Machines can make mistakes." "Not ours," said the brain sharpener. "However, I will answer your question. When we first discovered your world, we were dismayed to find how backward your people living in it are. Dangerous, too. If they go on advancing technically, they may well destroy themselves and lay waste to the whole planet. We considered two ways of preventing this. One was to destroy your planet ourselves, but we would only do that if we were threatened ourselves. The other way was to improve your brains so that you would be fit to survive, and also useful to us for the development of our other planets. Do you understand this?" "Too well," thought Michael. "It's slavery for most of us." And then he decided better try and do without critical thoughts, in case the brain sharpeners took a dislike to them. "Why did you choose my class?" he asked, to change the subject. "Your teacher, Mr. Browser, spoke words which put him in direct contact with us for a short while. No one has ever spoken about brain sharpeners while we've been listening into planet Earth. We realized afterwards that the words had only been spoken by chance. But as we were already contemplating making contact with Earth, why not with your class? Your brains certainly could do with some sharpening. I'm sure you will agree. And you're already sharpening their brains? Of course, and from reports already received, the work is going very well. What happens then when you sharpen their brains enough? The commander's expression was one of earnest all of the time. He never relaxed his concentration. We shall consider them for transfer to our fifth newly discovered planet, which we are trying to develop. But they're only children, said Michael. Precisely. We need children because by the time they arrive at their destination, they will be just the right age for settling down. An excellent idea, said Michael, hoping that his secret thoughts, full of fear, will not stand revealed to the brain sharpener. What an awful prospect! His friends in Class 8 were already busy preparing themselves to be kidnapped. At all costs he must return to school to warn them, if they would listen. If not, he'll have to speak to Headmaster or contact their parents. Meanwhile, he must try to keep out of the clutches of the brain sharpeners himself. As for you, went on the commander, I have satisfied your wish to meet a brain sharpener. If you wish to stay here and take a concentrated course, you could travel on to the fifth planet before the others, and by the time they arrived, you would hold an important position. Thank you very much, said Michael, trembling at the idea. It's a great compliment. But don't you think that if I stay here, people on Earth will become very suspicious about what happened to me? There'd be an awful fuss in the newspapers. Perhaps you don't know what newspapers on Earth are like. When I came back, if I ever did, there'd be a lot of newspaper around me like flies in a honey pot. And if I came back cleverer than I went up, it would arouse suspicion. At the moment, Mr. Browser's having all the credit, and no one will suspect the presence of an outside influence. I think the cleverest thing would be to send me back quickly, just the same as when I left. If I work hard, I'm sure Mr. Browse will help me catch up with the rest. You don't want anything to go wrong until you make sure that all of Class 8's brains can be sharpened sufficiently for use. Sound sense, observed the commander. Once we have sharpened your brain, you shall have a great future on Fifth Planet. I will arrange to have you transferred back to Earth. You will be deposited on your school field immediately after dark. Michael stepped outside on the moving floor again. This time it guided him just to a very small pepper pot, only just large enough to hold him. The door closed behind him as soon as he entered it. The transparent roof opened up, and the tiny pepper pot ascended through the gap and rocketed its way to Earth. Several sightings of a UFO were reported that evening, but nobody saw Michael step out on the school field just after dark. As soon as he'd done so, the little pepper pot began to disintegrate, and within 2 minutes there was nothing left of it except a small mark of burning on the grass. Michael ran across the field and into the school. In Class 8's room, Mr. Browse was still there. He was putting books into his briefcase and preparing to leave. Michael, you've come back. You've missed a whole day's work. You will have to make up for it tomorrow. Yes, Mr. Browser. Michael was disappointed. In the old days, before the brain sharpeners started interfering, Mr. Browser wanted to know where he'd been, would have been worried if he was all right, would have told him to hurry home to his parents. Now all he was concerned about was missing of a day's work. Michael hurried off home, very depressed. The prospect of rescuing Class 8 from their outer space fate seemed far from rosy, for he clearly couldn't expect any help from Mr. Browser. Mr. Browser was already beginning to react, just like a brain sharpener.